It's almost midnight, Watchers. Are you ready to join the Midnight Watchers to talk about their favorite strange and scary movies?
Welcome. This is Koji.
It's Quentin.
And Jennifer.
And this is episode number 15 of the Midnight Watchers. Welcome. I hope everyone is well. Jennifer, Quentin, are you guys good?
Yes, I'm in Glendale, beautiful Glendale. Actually close to you, Koji. Close to you too, Jennifer.
Yeah.
We're all in the same area.
Yeah, we are.
And Jennifer, are you good?
I'm doing great. I just can't believe it's already August and the summer is almost over. I mean, we're all parents here, so I expected like a lot more summer plans of some kind. And now school's already starting.
Yeah, next week.
Well, Mexico is open, I heard. So I'm working with this actress who just flew to Mexico. I hope she could come back this week, auditioning next week.
Yeah.
Wait, Mexico's open, like It was closed off traveling?
No, it was open. It's
open.
fine. You can go back and forth.
Yeah.
But what's weird thing is that like even my maid was supposed to go back to Mexico, but she did not go during COVID because maybe she was afraid it's hard for her to come back. So I don't know. Or up to go, and I don't know, because she was going to go in March and she never went.
Good to know.
Yep. And I just got back from a vacation. We went to my family and I went to my son and I went to Tule Lake, which is the place that my dad was incarcerated during World War II. And I'd never been there. One of the places my dad was incarcerated and I'd never been there. So it's super exciting to see. And also to realize that the town is super Tule Lake is super small.
But it's in California?
It's right on the border of Oregon and California. So it's in the middle of nowhere.
So it's like a 10-hour drive.
Well, we took a really long way, so it was because we went up to 395 past Manzanar. We went to Manzanar as well, so we went to a couple different camps. So my son and I, our goal is to go to all the camps that my family was incarcerated. So we have a couple more to go. But yeah, overall, I think we did 1,600 miles or something crazy like that. But before we get into that, I wanted to kind of talk a little. I wanted to share some of our reviews. I printed out our reviews so that we could say hello to those people. So Jillian. He said, "This is the perfect pandemic podcast. The movie selection on the podcast is quite impressive and any film buff would appreciate. I like the three differing point of views of the hosts. Quentin always dropping science, Koji keeping it real, and Jennifer being the cheerleader. I'm not sure how I should take this. But he gave us
what is science? It's history of horror films?
Yeah. He gave us all five. They gave 5 stars. So that's great.
Oh, that's good.
Sassy person also so I don't know if we know who that is, but
I think I do.
Okay.
Yeah.
But I listened to this podcast. I'm glad I did. They have a good taste and movies are well chosen for the times we are in. Good for horror fanatics and for newbies. I like the titles of the movie they choose. By the way, who names a movie The Crazies? That's a title my mom would come up with. Cannibal Holocaust is one of my favorite movies, even though it frightens me. So I'm glad they did that one. I hope they do The Fly. So maybe we should watch The Fly at some point.
The Fly, which one? Is it the Cronenberg one or the original one?
I think she just says Fly, so we could choose that. The last one is from The Professor.
The Fly is a remake.
Yeah, there's a couple.
That's 2-5 to The Fly.
This podcast is epic status, a great podcast with great talent, and you can never go wrong with Jennifer Field. I think this is a Jennifer fan. The group talks about some cool films that are not on the everyday radar, which will open you up to some new films to watch. I highly recommend checking this podcast out. You will not be disappointed. So I love the three, those 3 reviews. So please, everyone who listens, please write a review on Apple Podcast. It's really great. It helps us out a lot. And please also tell a friend if you have it.
And I swear, none of those people were me, because sometimes I would write reviews myself, and it doesn't sound like my own review. I would write with very sophisticated wording.
Dude, put one up.
Yeah, I should put one out.
Right.
All right. So today we're going to be talking about the Burning. I know there's some confusion about the movies we're supposed to watch, but we all agreed that we were watching this one first. So let me read a little bit about it, then we can get into it. At summer camp, some teenagers pull a prank on the camp's caretaker, Cropsey. But the joke goes terribly wrong, and the teens leave Cropsey for dead after setting him on fire. But Cropsey. Yeah. But no one keeps Cropsey down. A few years later, the burned and disfigured caretaker returns to camp equipped with... Dude, I didn't print this out all out. Oops. This is not professional.
They burn the camp down?
No, they don't burn the camp. They burn him down, but he comes back and kills everyone, right? It came out on May 8th, 1981, directed by Tony Maylam. The box office was $707,000. Budget was 1.5. The screenplay, there's 4 people listed to the screenplay, so this is interesting. Tony Maylam, our friend Harvey Weinstein, Bob Weinstein, and Peter Lawrence. Sorry, God, I can't speak today. Sorry. I saw it on Amazon Prime, but it's also available on YouTube. So they're both.
It's not on Amazon Prime. I thought I saw you guys. I sent you guys a link.
It was on Amazon Prime originally.
It wasn't.
No.
Really? They took it down. Yeah, that's why I have to find the link.
Oh, I thought I watched it. I thought I watched it originally on Amazon Prime.
Oh, really? So it was a very weird movie, I think, because first it's like it shows Harvey Weinstein as a megalomaniac. Who puts like created by Harvey Weinstein on a movie? Not a TV, not even a TV series. So actually, that was I think Harvey Weinstein's first production. Believe it or not.
That was
early Miramax, the first Miramax production, which was The Burning. I didn't know that actually, so I came back to watching it, realizing that wow.
Yeah, it was his first. I'm just reading about it now. It was his the first one, and also it was based on the New York urban legend, right, of the Cropsey maniac.
The Cropsey maniac is in Staten Island, right?
Yeah, Staten Island, and when it first came out, The Burning didn't generate much appraisal from critics, nor reviews were being published at the time. Notable examples of this were film critic Leonard Maltin awarded the film 1 star or bomb, calling it an awful The Friday the 13th ripoff. And Time Out, citing suspense-wise, it's proficient enough, but familiarity with this sort of stuff can breed contempt. But recently, it's gotten better reviews. It received critical acclaim and is considered by some to be one of the best slasher films ever made. On Rotten Tomatoes, The Burning holds an 89% approval rating, which I thought was really, really interesting.
Yeah.
So anyway, what did you guys think of the movie?
I disagree with it. I don't think it's a great movie, because even when I saw it a long time ago as a kid, and I remember why I got to know about The Burning is one of the videos nasties, because I was growing up in Hong Kong, and so there's a lot of American horror films that are so bloody. When they export to UK put this list up called the video nasties in the 80s. Basically, that's too gory, and so The Burning is one of the video nasties that UK actually banned. So I was really excited to watch it when I moved to Canada when I was a teenager, and finally get to see the uncut version. But what's weird about, I remember even Canada have censorship, and Canada would cut movies out, like cut scenes out, because I remember getting a Texas Chainsaw Massacre DVD, or Texas Chainsaw Massacre VHS, like the Canadian version would have to cut out certain scenes. So it's very frustrating actually trying to watch the original version, and finally get to see it in HD. So I liked it a little bit better than the first time I watched it, but I didn't think it was a great film.
And Jennifer, what did you think?
Yeah, I mean, I was curious why you guys picked it out, and then, or I think Quentin picked it out, right? But then when I watched it, I was pleasantly pleased, because from my understanding, it was created by Harvey Weinstein before Friday the 13th?
After.
Okay.
Is it before? I think it could have been.
Yeah. I think it came out, or it was conceived before, but came out after.
Out after.
Yeah, according to all the things I read online.
That's what I read too. Like, I think like there was like Harvey said that, and I think the makeup artist Tom Savini had said that. This is because there's so many comparisons to Friday the 13th, so that was kind of fun, to kind of see that this was like a trendy sort of theme of horror at that time. And I mean, I was thinking about it, this was like the real true 80s horror movie that we watched on our podcast so far, right? Because the only other
Carrie.
80s.
But also
Maybe
like
it was 70s, right? Carrie.
I thought Carrie was 80s. No, I could be wrong.
Carrie 76, 78.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
It feels 80s, I guess, but it's 70s. Yes, this was because let's see, Cannibal Holocaust and Santa
Sangre is
90s.
1989.
So they were kind of like, those are like at the tail end technically when it was released, right? For 80 and 89.
But Sangre is not considered a horror film. It's considered more of an art film, because when it first released, it was played at kind of like a New Art theater. It's played what they call calendar houses, which means they would play for like a week. They would spot. So it's really like Jodorowsky is not considered a horror director. It's more really an art director. It so happens that Sangre, basically horror film.
Basically horror, yeah. So this was like the real meaty like 80s horror. So I loved
The
that.
exploitation film.
Yeah, like when they had the long like a shower scene with the girl taking a shower and you could see her breasts. It was very and she's supposed to be under 18, but she looked like she's like 25. That was the one thing that I couldn't get past was all the actors looked like they were super, super old. None of them looked like they were like under 18 years old, which I think they're all supposed to.
I thought a lot of the kids in Burning looked young.
Oh, really? I thought they all
There are
looked
some
old.
young kids there because I think if you look at Friday 13th, all those kids are like 30. And then Burning was surprising. There are some like kind of youngish kids in it, so it looks like more like summer camp. You watch like Friday 13th. How come all these kids are like but they're more camp counselors, right? Friday 13th.
Yeah, I thought they were.
Camp counselors.
Because then there was little kids too, right? There
Yeah.
was like, it was like there's different grades or ages there at the camp in the extras. So yeah, I don't know how old did they talk about their age? Like high school? Because I didn't know how old they were supposed to be.
Well, I think they were like, that was weird. There's like super young kids, and then like there were some of the other kids, but I believe they were actually not. Some of them were counselors, obviously,
right?
But some of the other kids were not counselors. They were kids, and they were like they looked clearly over 25, at least, if not 30s. But so it's kind of shocking. So you're like, why are these little kids like why are these little kids like running around with these like 30-year-olds, which leads to a lot of issues. But I don't know. I didn't love this movie. It took me a while. I love the opening though, with the burning of the dude and kind of that whole like opening scene was really, really awesome, and it really got me into it. And then it took a long time for that first kill to happen. I think it was on the canoe. Was that the first kill?
But I kind of don't feel so bad for the guy, because why is he get so scared? And then this opening thing with the scowl, kind of like candles, and how could that just a couple of candles actually burn up this whole? How did all that happen?
Wait, wasn't there like oil or something?
No, it's
gas
just
can.
Gas can.
Oh, that gas can. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Oh, I see.
There was like,
but coincidentally, there's a gas can there and just one candle. Right.
I see. And the guy is so slow motion. He's like, ah. But anyway, what's interesting was that Tom Savini was the guy who did the stunt for it.
Oh.
Yeah. So interesting thing about why I picked the Prowler and also Burning is that Tom Savini did the special makeup effects for both films. So he was sort of the go-to guy for like if you want to make a horror film, especially if it's like special makeup effects, he's the guy to go in. And I found out about Tom Savini actually in Hong Kong. I bought a book called so the makeup people there's Dick Smith, which is in the 70s, and he's the one that did all the makeup for The Exorcist. So, and then Tom Savini is sort of the next generation of makeup artists that became really famous for creating all these 80s horror movies, But before that was Dick Smith, and they both did a book, and they teach you how to do these makeup effects. So as a kid, I was too young to get the Dick Smith book, but I got the Tom Savini book in the 80s. I just loved it. I was just flipping through all these like magazines and just, oh my God, I just want to watch these movies, but they're so hard to find. And VHS wasn't popular until like when I was like 15 or 16 or something.
And I remember you talked about Dick Smith before, like he came up with like the ultimate blood formula or something.
Yeah, so they both have a different formula of blood, and Dick Smith formula's blood is actually pretty good, I think. Because you look at The Exorcist, the makeup was really good, and so I think he won an Oscar for that, didn't he? Then obviously,
it's definitely an Oscar-winning movie.
Then in the 80s, there's also the prosthetics. So that's for prosthetic guys. I think it's Rick who won for like American Werewolf in London. So that got like all the makeup people with a lot of prestige. They're not just like doing exploitation films, which Tom Savini has been doing. He also did Dawn of the Dead, so he's this kind of grandfather of like special makeup effects. So Dick Smith is the grandfather, and Tom Savini is the dad. And then in the late 80s, you have all these like Jennifer Aspinall and all these new people that came out and created this really interesting makeup effects.
Jennifer, what is your favorite part of the movie? Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, I might have been swayed because my friend Patrick had commented when we put on our Facebook page that we were going to watch this, and he's like, oh, classic soundtrack from Rick Wakeman, right? So I was already looking for that, but I know just from the trailer, the sort of synthy synth, right? Synthesizer keys that was used for the score was like just so iconic and classic. And I don't know if you guys noticed, but I love scores. I don't know. I'm really moved by them so much for some reason. They're like one of my favorite things about movies. And then so I loved that. That was like my favorite. Just like that freaky, like it's not quite the Twilight Zone, but it has like this sort of higher synthy sound that it's like it sounds sort of cheesy, but it's just more it's just more like classic era of I think 80s, had an 80s horror feel. So that was my favorite part.
Was there any, I mean, were you scared at any point in this movie?
I figured you were going to ask me that. Yeah, because I feel like I'm always scared, but then when you say that, I'm really realizing you're saying like, am I screaming or am I like, I'm holding my breath? So I don't think I felt that. I never screamed. But I think there was a time or two when I gasped. I was just sort of like amused.
My wife, when she walked in when I was watching the movie, and she thought I was watching porn because she walked in when the shower scene, and then she stuck around for a little while watching it with me, and she's like, "What the hell are you watching?" She thought for a while because there was like no blood or anything at that time, but I think my favorite scene was when I think the camp counselor swims out to the canoe, and then she sees like the body inside, and then she freaks out, and to me that's when it really gets started because that's when the deaths start to really mount at that point on. I just wished the death started happening a little bit earlier. It just was like there's too much character going on here. I just wanted to see people get killed at that point. But Quentin, what was your favorite part of the movie?
I think my favorite sequence, I would say, it's that boat sequence, that raft sequence, that where Cropsy was hiding on the boat and ends up slashing all the kids. So that's always like a really cool sequence for me, from like a technical point of view and just the way that was put together. But I really, in terms of like, do I really like the content of this film or the ideology of this film? I don't. It's kind of weird because so Cropsy got burned by these kids, and he comes back for revenge, and then he also got killed by these kids. He's kind of like, well, this guy, poor guys. I don't. I mean, you don't really get what is his motivation of this guy killing people, right?
Yeah.
Because the guys that he's attacking are not the people that actually burn him, right? They're just
So
other
I guess
kids.
He just hates kids, and he just sounds like there's just no character development. I mean, I did think that the first kill was kind of interesting when he first got out, and then the prostitute got really scared, like seeing that how burned he was, and I thought at least that kill makes a little bit more sense, and the rest of the kill you're just like, like why do you spend all this time to kill these kids? It's just like ridiculous, right. and then why did those kids have to kill them at the end, And it was just and the final scene is sort of the worst scene of like just in terms of makeup effects. It's just like I guess they were running out of budget and they just have to like, and it's just so fake that axe thing hitting his face or something. I don't know.
Oh.
It's just kind of like he's just sitting there and go boom. It's like, and that's sort of like the beginning of it's sort of like the beginning of like makeup effects that, and I guess the way now we do it is just you would still have prosthetics, but you would clean it up digitally, So it'll make it look a lot more better.
Mm-hmm. I wish, when I was watching the movie, I wished that we never found out if he lived or died. And so it would be more of like a boogeyman. Because the fact that we found out that he was burned and and then we see him like killing the prostitute, like I just wanted it to be more mysterious. Like, oh, is this guy a ghost? Is he a monster? Or is he a real person living there at this random place trying to kill all these kids because he hates kids because they burned him or kids burned him?
But that would be too similar to Friday the 13th.
Yeah, that's true, I guess. But that's true, I guess. But I think story-wise, it would be more interesting. But one of the things that kind of got me thinking when I was watching this, and maybe Quentin could talk about this a little bit, is kind of what was the first slasher movie, and kind of what has kind of happened since this movie? I mean, I know Friday the 13th.
I mean, the first slasher movie was really considered first slasher movie. I think was Black Christmas, right, 1972.
Oh, okay.
So that was sort of considered the beginning of the slasher movie, and it's actually made by we should do a Christmas horror movie. Like so for May
Yes.
December we do like 2 Christmas horror movies. And so Black Christmas is sort of the classic that sort of began the genre. It's made by Canadian director Bob Clark, and Bob Clark ironically also made this other Christmas comedy that's really famous with Billy Billingsley. Bob Clark. He's like this, but he also is like he makes Porky's. He directed Porky's, so he's like this director that does comedy and horror. I
remember we talked about him now, right?
He made One Magic Christmas. No, what is that? It's a very famous Christmas movie that everybody watch every Christmas. It's called
Chris the Miracle.
And it stars like Billy something Billingsley. It's like a kid actor.
Oh, A Christmas Story or something.
A Christmas Story, yeah.
Yeah.
Christmas Story.
I remember you talked.
Oh yeah.
I remember you talked about.
And
So,
then
it's so random.
Black Christmas and then Christmas Story. So Black Christmas is in 1972, and then and for a while, like I don't think there was any slasher film. And actually, Tom Savini did one called Deranged, I think. And then I think Friday the 13th really started that wave of like, and again, like Rosemary's Killer, it's very similar. It's sorry, I mean like The Prowler. There's the same era of like Friday the 13th, right? It's all 1980. So and The Burning. So it could be. It's not impossible that Harvey Weinstein could have conceived this before, Friday the 13th,
And then did the genre die out after Friday the 13th a little bit?
No, but then after that, we've been making slasher films all the way until Scream. Scream sort of reinvigorated genre of slasher, right? Because Wes Craven also, okay, bring it back. So 1972 is Black Christmas, and you have to see Wes Craven made Last House on the Left, which is 1974. Actually produced by Sean Cunningham, who is the director and producer of Friday the 13th. So, So Wes Craven sort of vaguely started the horror genre, the slasher genre, and Bob Clark basically. So yeah, Black Christmas is 19.
I've never seen Black Christmas. Maybe
1974. Sorry, Black Christmas 1974. Then you have who was I talking about?
Sean Cunningham.
So it's Last House
Craven.
Last House on the Left.
Interesting.
1972. Well, I don't know. So Last House on the Left is not considered a slasher film because there isn't really a killer involved. So basically, it's more considered but really it's the beginning of a slasher genre because Craven made it in 1972 and Sean Cunningham was the producer. So basically, it's again a classic horror film about these kids that two girls go to New York, met up with these 3 kind of like nasty, mean people, druggy, whatever. They killed these 2 girls, but then these 3 guys were traveling back to like upstate New York. I don't know why, and they actually passed by this girl's home, and the car broke down. And then the parents of these kids, the girl who died, invited them in, and eventually found out they're the killer, and ends up killing those 3 killers. And at the it's like it's kind of like this revenge kind of thriller, revenge slasher. And so the mom actually pretends to give this guy a blowjob and then ends up biting off his penis. So that's a famous thing that in Last House on the Left.
I want to see that movie. That sounds like an interesting movie.
So you're saying that either that one or Black Christmas probably would be considered the original slasher?
I think Black Christmas is considered the original slasher because it is about a killer on the loose on Christmas Eve.
Like what is
psycho on the loose, right?
What's the definition of is that what it is? A crazy
slasher,
person is trying to kill everybody, and then there's
like there's a body count, right? Slasher is always a killer on the loose, and there's a body count, and we don't know who is the killer. Again, like it sort of started the same vein with giallo in the giallo genre in Italy. It started by giallo is basically yellow in Italian, but it's kind of like a detective fiction that there's a killer on the loose and they kill all these people. So the Italians started a similar way with the Americans, but the Italian version is called the giallo, which obviously Dario Argento is the one who pioneers it in 1975. Deep Red, 1976, I think. So.
I did not know any of that information.
I love it. I know.
1975, yeah.
And I've never seen any of those movies. Jennifer, have you seen any of those movies?
No. I've heard of them, of course, but we should totally watch Black Christmas or Last House on the Left. That scene you're talking about with the mom and the fake blowjob.
The other one that actually it's called I Spit in Your Grave. Have you heard? You heard about
I've heard
that,
of
right?
that.
Yeah.
So basically, it's about 1978. So it's basically about this woman who goes to the countryside, and she basically is a writer. And then these three guys like basically raped her and almost killed her. And so she decided to wreak revenge on these three guys. And just the rest of the movie is about her trying to wreak revenge on these three guys. And one scene again is a really famous scene is that she kind of entices this guy to take a bath with her. Then she cuts up his penis. let him bleed in the
I'm noticing a theme here about the penis being cut off in a lot of these movies.
Oh my god! Wait, what was the end of another movie? Oh, you're just saying in these movies we're talking about?
Yeah, the movies.
I mean, castration is definitely like it's a theme in a lot of things, in a lot of like literature or whatever, right?
Yeah.
So,
True.
And the whole idea of the phallus, it's being threatened, whether that's why it's horror, it's a male sexuality, a male
emasculation, right?
Yeah.
Right.
There's just a fear of castration in some way,
I wonder if that the author that wrote that book we wanted her to talk on the show, if she touches on that.
But also I think the slasher genre also have a lot of creative killers. For example, in Sleepaway Camp, you find out the girl is actually a boy at the end. He's a transgender killer.
Oh yeah, you talked about that.
So there's like a lot of like it's kind of a lot of interesting kind of like weird kind of tropes and stereotypes that came out during all these slasher genres, because they're trying to make a killer interesting or make a victim interesting.
Wait, is Halloween considered a slasher movie?
Yes, Halloween is. Oh, sorry, Halloween. Yeah, so Halloween is sort of the movie that started slasher 1976, but really it's Black Christmas 1974.
Okay, but Halloween with Michael Myers is considered because he's going around killing everyone, right? So
wouldn't Child's kind of one too? The Chucky movies.
Which one?
All the Chucky movies.
The Chucky movies. Well, Chucky is sort of like a sort of rebirth of the killer. It's a killer doll. So because for a long time they were trying to figure. I mean, there were a lot of like killer doll story, but people were trying to see how do we make these dolls be killer. So I think one of the first movie about killer dolls that was pretty successful is called Dolls. It's made by the director of Reanimator. Stuart Gordon, who actually just recently passed away. Actually passed away a few years ago. And actually, I went to his office in Burbank, believe it or not, because I was a big fan of Stuart Gordon. And then my friend Chuck Perello, who's also a horror director, made like Hillside Strangler, and he brought me over to Stuart's office, and I saw some of the original stuff from Reanimator, which actually is such a classic. The Reanimator we have to eventually do, because Reanimator is such a classic because it sort of brings the horror out of this slasher genre in some way.
Yeah.
And still utilize so much makeup effects. So kind of interesting.
I saw that one. So I know.
I haven't watched that one. But let me ask you this. Do you think you guys could survive if you were in a slasher movie?
Absolutely. It's so easy. Just don't have sex. Just lock yourself in, and that's it.
Right.
and again, like
quarantine yourself.
Yeah.
What about you, Jennifer?
I mean, I always, I don't know. I have these like weird fantasies sometimes. Like if some like killer or rapist or somebody was trying to like rob me or something, that I would seduce them with my womanly powers and convince them otherwise. I've always like played that out of my head. Like if there was someone that was breaking in my house or was trying to kill me, I would like mesmerize them with like a blowjob or something. Like,
well, there have been stories where I was just listening to a true crime podcast where this guy raped this girl, and she convinced him that she loved him, and then like
this guy raped this girl, but she convinced that he loved him.
So she convinced him that she loved him,
right? So
then they set up another date. This is in Central California. And he came back, and he ended up getting arrested. I think there's another story. There's a bunch of stories like that where they just were able to convince these people that there was like some kind of infatuation. It wasn't like just a straight rape.
So I was fascinated by this actually killer and rapist in this sort of like a housing project in Hong Kong. I think it's like 1989 something. This young guy who's a nerdy guy, but he raped and killed a bunch of women. And again, like that was how he was caught. It's this other woman this woman basically had to like entice him, and with the, you know, the police have this woman entice him to come back out. That he's like, she has feelings for him, and then he comes back out, then he gets arrested.
So,
my God.
although to be fair, there have been cases the opposite, where there was a case where this woman was like trying really hard to show the guy that was hurting her that she loved him, and she was just saying everything like, you know, like I love you, like you know, blah blah blah. And they're having this whole thing, and it just made him more mad because he hated his mom. He hated, like, he literally had this bad, and he hated women. And so the more the woman talked, he actually like he hurt her more, and he killed her, not the friend that didn't say. So it was like, it was really interesting because they were like hitchhikers. This is the 70s. It was hitchhikers.
It was hitchhiker.
And they were back when people hitchhiked.
You just don't want to mess with serial killers. Just like quarantine yourself, stay away. Like any psychotic killers, like, you know, just don't talk to them. Like, why bother? They're psychotic anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So,
but in this movie, I kept thinking that they were doing everything. Like, it took them a really long time to figure out what was going on. And then I kept thinking, like, man, you guys have no survival instincts. None of these people have
no, but
survival
seriously,
instincts.
like, how would you be on and go to summer camp and think somebody's trying to kill you? It's very rare, you know. Like, if you go to summer camp, would you ever think, oh my God, there's a killer on the loose? No, you don't.
I think every summer camp I was at, there was always like, people were always afraid of that because the camp counselors told horror stories every night about somebody escaped trying to kill them. So like every night we thought that somebody was literally trying to kill us. So it's actually the opposite. Like I would probably jump to the conclusion that people were killing everybody before it happened because of the counselors talking about it every single day. I mean, that was like the scary story. I went to summer camp every year, and that was like the story every year. It was like every day, every night would be like, oh, so there's a hospital, mental hospital nearby, and this person just escaped. So we have to quarantine everybody. You can't leave your cabin at night because they're out there. We're going to be walking around, and then they like hit windows and stuff. Actually, I remember
there is a scary story told too in this movie.
Yeah, that's right. They were actually
they
doing
still
that.
Ignore it. But you were saying, okay, so in seventh, but anyway.
But in seventh grade, I was actually on a school camping trip, and the PE teacher told us like a similar story that we just said, and the girls were crying so much, and the teacher got in trouble because the girls were like so scared, and all the boys were like, "What? This is like clearly fake. Yeah, like this is not a real story." But so we would have probably died, and the girls would probably been okay at the end of the story.
That's funny.
Wait, did you guys go to summer camp? Did you go to summer camp, Jennifer?
No, never got to summer camp. I was a camp counselor once.
Oh wow, okay.
One summer.
Well, did you tell scary stories?
No, I showed scary movies. Because I brought in all my, because eventually they said, oh my God, you know for all the films so well, why don't you become the video librarian? So I was actually, I stopped being counselor, and I was like actually running the video library or something, school library, the camp library. So I would bring in all my horror films and show them to the kids.
Wait, how old were the kids?
Oh, they're like 12, 13, whatever.
I guess old enough-ish.
Yeah. And I kept in touch with a couple of kids that throughout my high school, you know, fun.
Oh, I thought you said you touched the high school.
No, I kept in touch with a couple of kids after. Okay. A lot of Jewish kids actually where I went because it's in Montreal. I think all the kids they're either half white or they're either Jewish or white. Mm-hmm. Jewish or WASP. So we call them WASP because even my school I went to is WASP versus Jews. So there were like a couple Asians. I was the only Chinese guy. I was the only Asian guy. There's another guy from Hong Kong came, like the younger class in my high school, and then there's maybe two black kids, 3 black kids. Yeah.
So different than Vancouver.
Yeah. Montreal is very diverse. Wait, you're from Vancouver?
No, just having been to Vancouver and Alberta, but you said it was diverse? No, it wasn't diverse.
Vancouver is a lot of Chinese. It's 300,000 of Chinese people out of like 1 million.
Wow. Yeah, no, Vancouver is very right. But I didn't realize Montreal was, I mean, it's such a world-class city.
Jennifer,
Montreal, it's kind of boring.
Did you go to summer camp, Jennifer?
Yeah. So that's like one of the best part of going to summer camp is the horror stories. The ghost stories, the campfire stories is like the best part. So there's always that's for sure. We always have those. And yeah, I was a camp counselor and went to camp. And I don't remember being scared at camp or thinking, like fantasizing there was some scary killer on the loose, but we always told stories. I felt like I remember more it was ghost stories though than serial killer stories. But yeah, that's what I loved about this movie too. That's why I didn't mind that the killing didn't happen till later, and because it brought me back. Like, yeah, summer camp. Not everyone gets to go have that experience, but anyone who did knows how fun it was, and you're away from your parents, and like there's crushes going on and people are making out. I was a kid, so we weren't like, and actually when I was a camp counselor, I was in high school, so I was still kind of a kid.
You don't go to, but summer camp is for like grade 11 and under, right? I mean, you wouldn't go to summer camp if you're grade 11, would you?
I don't know. I guess
I don't
not.
think so.
You're right.
No.
Yeah.
I think middle school is probably the end of the being in camp, because that's when you start trying to hook up with people.
Yeah. Because that's why you can't be going away to camp in high school, because you're just gonna be hooking.
Well, it's like the Taiwanese love boat, right?
Yeah.
Because like that's where they all had sex. That's like like that was.
But they go when they're like 16 or what?
Yeah, I think they're like 16 or 17 or something. Like they're pretty old. I mean, like all my friends, I remember I was super jealous because all my friends would go to that, and I was like, wait, why can't I go in the boat and try to hook up with a bunch of girls?
Maybe I can tell my friend Casper to love boat, man. It's Chinese. As long as you're Chinese, you can go, I think.
Yeah.
Oh.
It's a Chinese thing, right?
And it's paid by the Taiwanese government or the government, right?
Is it like encouraged for?
There's encouragement language learning, I think.
Oh, okay.
And cultural stuff too, right? Is there a lot of cultural?
That'd be great, like Love Boat, but there's a serial killer on the loose on Love Boat.
I know, right?
It's a bitter Japanese American who can't go in the camp because they're not Taiwanese.
But it's not. You know what's funny? It's the Love Boat is not really a boat, right? You fly it over to Taiwan. And you actually live in a camp. So that's why I was very confused. It's like, why is it called Love Boat? It's like really, but isn't Love Boat a show in the 80s, which is about like this kind of thing? But this Taiwan Love Boat is not really that. It's really like you fly over to Taiwan and you stay in the dorms and you learn Chinese.
Yeah.
And crushes happen, and people lose their virginity and things like that.
Well, I mean, if you're like 16, 17 and there's a bunch of people there, you know, they're bound to just have like
hormones. Craziness
is about to ensue, right?
Yeah.
I mean, if you get like a 10-year-old, they're not craziness. It's a different kind of craziness. But so I think we're nearing the end of this episode, but thank you guys so much for coming on. Sorry for the delay for this, but
I know I'm sorry, that was my bad, but I'm so glad this worked out with the Zoom, because I'm happy with my setup, because you guys have good setup. So we're
going to try to do like every other episode. Some episodes will be in the studio. Some episodes will be on Zoom. The audio quality of the studio ones is like a million times better. It was actually
better than the Zoom one. Maybe it's just a mic. Maybe it's a mic issue.
Yeah, it's a mic, but it's also the way it's
like a better mic. We each got like that. What is that mic called again? The Yeti mic.
The Yeti mics, yeah.
Maybe we would be better.
No, but still, I mean, it's just in general, it's just the way I think it is. But
because the Zoom reduces the quality, I'm sure.
Yeah,
it reduces the speed. But yeah, I like the every other, or
every once in a while we can just switch it up a little bit. But so thank you everybody for listening. Please rate, review, and subscribe to this podcast. And I'm gonna give one thing for everybody needs to do is, if you could tell one friend who that likes horror movies, especially these kinds of horror movies, tell one friend about this podcast and let them know about it. That would help us out greatly. Okay. And so text it, email it, put it on your socials, do something to let people know about this. It will really help us out. And we really appreciate everyone listening. So once again, thank you, Quentin. Thank you, Jennifer. And thank you everyone for listening.
Thank you guys. See you again.
Thank you guys.
See you at the Prowler.